Hello and welcome. We are live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will witness Bharat Shakti, a synergized demonstration of indigenous defence capabilities in the form of tri-services live fire and maneuver exercise. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveils master plan of $1.2 billion Sabarmati Ashram Memorial Project in Gujarat. Project aims to revitalize Mahatma Gandhi's teachings and philosophy for the present and future generations. Indian President Draupadi Murmu to attend the National Day celebrations of Mauritius as the chief guest. Indian Navy contingent to also participate. President Murmu discusses ways to deepen bilateral ties with Mauritian PM Jagannath. Gifts a rupee card to him. India slams China at UNSC over terror listing, accuses Security Council Sanctions Committee on Terrorism of allowing a system of disguised veto in blocking the listing of Pakistan-linked terrorists.
For genuine, evidence-based listing proposals for globally sanctioned terrorists to be blocked without giving any due justification is uncalled for and smacks of doublespeak.
India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval meets Israeli PM Benjamin Netanyahu, discusses efforts to release hostages and the issue of humanitarian assistance. India's Prime Minister will witness a synergized demonstration of indigenous defence capabilities in the form of a tri-services live fire and maneuver exercise at Pokhran, Rajasthan on Tuesday. DD India's Akshay Dongre tells us more.
In the vast Thar desert of Rajasthan, India is all set to demonstrate its military might and indigenous capabilities through a joint tri-service exercise. The exercise is being called Bharat Shakti and will demonstrate an integrated tri-service firepower along with exercises aimed at showcasing the synergy between the Indian Army, Air Force and the Navy.
This exercise will showcase high synergy, multi-service, multi-domain capability, thereby demonstrating inter-service integration. Since the event is being conducted at Pokhran, it imposes certain terrain restrictions on the employment of naval maneuvers. So therefore, such capabilities will be transmitted digitally on screen, and some of them will also be showcased in the static equipment display.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also witness the synergized demonstration and the joint operations of the armed forces in Pokhran. The Bharat Shakti has on display an array of indigenous weapon systems and platforms as a demonstration of the prowess of the country promised on the nation's self-reliance initiative. The demonstration site has an exhibition which displays a wide range of indigenous technology and equipment, including aircraft, helicopters, torpedoes, UAVs, anti-drone equipment, AI technology, robotics, armament, ammunition, communication systems and much more. Amid the current turbulent global order, the exercise simulate realistic, synergized, multi-domain operations displaying integrated operational capabilities of the Indian Armed Forces to counter threats not only across land, air and sea, but also in cyber and space domains.
Increasing synergy and becoming a truly self-reliant force has been the central theme of the Indian Armed Forces for the past decade. And here in the vast Thar deserts of Rajasthan, India, that exactly is being exhibited by the Indian Army, Air Force and the Navy through Bharat Shakti 2024. In Pokhran, Rajasthan, with camera persons from Diman, Akshay Dongre, DD India.
And in a major boost to infrastructure in western state of Gujarat, Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated multiple projects in Ahmedabad. Prime Minister laid the foundation stone and dedicated a slew of railway and petrochemical projects. Prime Minister also flagged off 10 new Vande Bharat trains. The Prime Minister also reviewed the progress of projects. The investment will not only improve connectivity but also boost economic growth and create new employment opportunities. And addressing the gathering after the inauguration of multiple railway projects, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the development of railway is one of the highest priorities for the government.
रेलवे का ये कायाकल्प नए निवेश और निवेश से नए रोजगार की भी गारंटी दे रहा है। साथियों, हमारे इन प्रयासों को कुछ लोग चुनावी चश्मे से देखने की कोशिश करते हैं। हमारे लिए ये विकास कार्य सरकार बनाने के लिए नहीं, ये विकास कार्य सिर्फ और सिर्फ देश बनाने का मिशन है। पहले की पीढ़ियों ने जो कुछ भुगता वो हमारे नौजवानों और उनके बच्चों को नहीं भुगतना पड़ेगा, और ये मोदी की गारंटी है।
PM Modi said that the governments that came after independence gave priority to political selfishness and that his government has invested more for the development of railways.
आजादी के बाद की सरकारों ने राजनीतिक स्वार्थ को जिस तरह प्राथमिकता दी और उसकी बहुत बड़ी शिकार भारतीय रेल रही है। आप पिछले 2014 के पहले के 25-30 रेल बजट देख लीजिए। रेल मंत्री देश की पार्लियामेंट में क्या बोलते थे? हमारी फलानी ट्रेन का वहां स्टॉपेज दे देंगे, वहां हम डिब्बे 6 है तो 8 कर देंगे। यानी रेलवे, और मैं देख रहा था पार्लियामेंट में भी धप धप तालियां बजती थी। यानी यही सोच रही थी कि स्टॉपेज मिला कि नहीं मिला, ट्रेन वहां तक आती है, मेरे स्टेशन तक आगे बढ़ी कि नहीं बढ़ी। देखिए 21वीं सदी में यही सोच रही होती तो देश का क्या होता। और मैंने पहला काम किया, रेल को अलग बजट से निकाल करके भारत सरकार के बजट में डाल दिया, और उसके कारण आज भारत सरकार के बजट के पैसे रेलवे के विकास के लिए लगने लगे।
And during his visit to Gujarat, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad. It has been the constant endeavour of the Prime Minister to uphold and cherish the ideals which Mahatma Gandhi stood for and also develop avenues which showcases his ideals and bring him closer to the people. The Prime Minister also inaugurated the redeveloped Kochra Ashram. It was the first ashram established by Mahatma Gandhi after coming to India from South Africa in 1915. It is still preserved as a memorial and tourist space by Gujarat Vidyapith. Prime Minister also launched the master plan of the Gandhi Ashram Memorial. And addressing at Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad, PM Modi hailed Mahatma Gandhi's contribution in building India. He said that Mahatma Gandhi's vision shows a clear direction for India's bright future.
जो देश अपनी विरासत नहीं संजो पाता, वो देश अपना भविष्य भी खो देता है। बापू का ये साबरमती आश्रम देश की ही नहीं, ये मानव जात की ऐतिहासिक धरोहर है, जिस आश्रम ने इतिहास का सृजन किया हो, जिस आश्रम की देश की आजादी में इतनी बड़ी भूमिका रही हो, जिसे देखने के लिए, जानने के लिए, अनुभव करने के लिए दुनिया भर से लोग यहां आते हो, उस साबरमती आश्रम को सहेज कर रखना हम सभी 140 करोड़ भारतीयों का दायित्व है। और साथियों, आज साबरमती आश्रम का जो विस्तार संभव हो रहा है, उसमें यहां रहने वाले परिवारों की बहुत बड़ी भूमिका रही है। इनके सहयोग के कारण ही आश्रम की 55 एकड़ जमीन वापस मिल पाई है। जिन जिन लोगों ने इसमें सकारात्मक भूमिका निभाई है, मैं उन परिवारों की सराहना करता हूं, उनका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं।
And Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav announced telecom reforms including spectrum regulatory sandbox and abolishing the requirement for a wireless operating license. Memorandum of Understanding signed between Department of Telecom and Ericsson for offering accredited courses on 5G for students of DOT's 100 5G use case scale apps, while emphasizing the importance of collaboration and cooperation among stakeholders to propel this sector forward. The Telecommunications Minister announced telecom reforms and reiterated the government's commitment to driving reforms in the telecom sector to create a conducive environment for investment and innovation. An Indian President Draupadi Murmu addressed the conferment ceremony of honorary degree of Doctor of Civil Law in Mauritius. On the occasion of the National Day of Mauritius, President Murmu conveyed her wishes to the students of the University of Mauritius.
I am delighted to begin this auspicious day that marks the National Day of Mauritius at the esteemed University of Mauritius. On this momentous day, I convey the best wishes of more than 1.4 billion Indians to all my Mauritius brothers and sisters, and eagerly look forward to joining the joyous celebrations of Saturday Mass later today.
And taking India-Mauritius partnership to new heights, President Draupadi Murmu and Mauritian Prime Minister Praveen Kumar Jugnauth held a tete-a-tete meeting on Monday. The two leaders took stock of bilateral ties and discussed ways to impart further momentum to the historic and deep-rooted partnership. In a special gesture, President Murmu presented an Indian rupee card to Mauritius PM. President Draupadi Murmu paid tribute to Sir Sivosagar Ramgulam and Sir Anirudh Jugnauth, two great sons of Mauritius, at the Botanical Gardens in Pamplemousse. India slammed China at United Nations Security Council over terror listing. Speaking at UNSC, Permanent Representative of India to the United Nations, Ruchira Kamboj pointed out China's double speak on global terror listing.
The decisions on rejecting listing requests are not made public. This is a disguised veto, but an even more impervious one that indeed merits a discussion amongst the wider membership. For genuine, evidence-based listing proposals for globally sanctioned terrorists to be blocked without giving any due justification is uncalled for and smacks of doublespeak when it comes to the Council's commitment in tackling the challenge of terrorism.
Reiterating the need for reforms in UN Security Council, Indian envoy to UN pressed the case for Council reforms that expands both permanent and elected membership.
What we therefore need is a Security Council that better reflects contemporary realities, the geographical and developmental diversity of the multipolar world of today, including the voices of the developing countries and unrepresented regions like Africa, Latin America, and the vast majority of Asia and the Pacific. For this, an expansion of the Council in both categories of membership is absolutely essential.
A New Zealand Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister Winston Peters arrived in New Delhi on Monday evening. Winston Peters is on an official visit to India from March 10th to 13th at the invitation of India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Both the leaders are scheduled to hold a bilateral meeting on Tuesday. The two leaders are expected to discuss bilateral relationship between the two nations. This is Peters' first visit to the country after the new government in New Zealand assumed office last November. And Belarusian Minister of Foreign Affairs Sergei Alinik is also in Delhi on a two-day official visit. The visit aims to strengthen the bilateral ties between Belarus and India. Sergei will hold talks with his Indian counterpart Dr. S. Jaishankar, heads of a number of ministries and government agencies. The two leaders are expected to discuss bilateral, regional and international issues in detail. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Israel urges UNSC to pressure Hamas for releasing hostages. Why are the US intelligence agencies saying that the country faces an increasingly fragile world order? We'll tell you after the break. And all eyes on India's top men's doubles duo Satvik Sairaj, Ranki Reddy and Chirag Shetty at the All England Open Badminton Championships beginning on Tuesday.
Wherever news breaks, whatever it takes.
Connecting corners, cutting across continents.
Stories that matter from across the globe.
Accurate, authentic journalism that serves you right. From politics to glamour, from sports to world affairs, with a fusion of aesthetics and substance. Introducing news in a new avatar. Experience the world through a new lens. Stay tuned to DD India for an exciting journey beyond borders.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Some more stories. Indian National Security Advisor Ajit Doval called on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu updated Doval on recent developments in the fighting in the Gaza Strip. The two leaders also discussed the effort to release the hostages and the issue of humanitarian assistance. This was the first high-level visit from India to Israel since the conflict erupted on October 7 last year. And Israel has demanded the United Nations Security Council to put as much pressure as possible on Hamas to release the people it took hostage. Foreign Minister Israel Katz on Monday addressed the 15-member council, which met to discuss findings of a UN report on sexual violence in October 7 attack. He called for sanctions to be imposed on Hamas, accusing the group of committing crimes worse than the terror organizations who had been targeted by the Security Council.
I'm demanding from the Security Council of the United Nations to put as much pressure as possible on the Hamas organization to release immediately and unconditionally all kidnapped hostages. Hamas crimes are even worse than the terror actions carried out by Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other terror organizations that were sanctioned here in the UN. Many countries have declared Hamas as a terror organization, including US, Australia, Canada, Japan, Paraguay, New Zealand, UK, the EU, and others. Please don't look away from the facts.
U.S. forces conducted 6 self-defense strikes, destroying an unmanned underwater vessel and 18 anti-ship missiles in Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen on Monday. Earlier in airstrikes, the U.S.-British coalition hit port cities and small towns in western Yemen. At least 11 people were killed and 14 others were injured in over 17 airstrikes. The strikes come just days after the first civilian fatalities and vessel loss in an attack of the port of Aden. Earlier, Houthis targeted commercial vessel, the U.S. ship Pinocchio, in the Red Sea. The attack comes as Houthis warn of escalating their operations. No injuries or damage was reported. The Iran-aligned Houthis began attacking commercial shipping in November. Despite reprisals from the U.S.-British coalition and other navies, the Houthis have escalated their campaign of attacks on commercial vessels in one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday that the situation along the front of Ukraine's war with Russia was the best it had been in 3 months, with Moscow's troops no longer advancing after the capture last month of the eastern city of Avdiivka. Zelensky in an interview said Ukraine had improved its strategic position despite shortages of weaponry, but suggested the situation could change again if new supplies were not forthcoming. Zelensky said Ukrainian forces had downed large numbers of Russian aircraft and continue to act in a strong manner in the Black Sea, where Russian military targets have come under repeated attack. And Kiev's forces had built up 3 lines of fortifications over more than 1,000 kilometers of territory, he added. And the Swedish flag was raised at NATO headquarters on Monday for the first time after it officially joined the alliance as its 32nd member. A Swedish delegation led by Crown Princess Victoria, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg and Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson were present during the event on the outskirts of Brussels. The European country became the newest member post its accession to the North Atlantic Treaty last Thursday.
Sweden brings high-end military capabilities, first-class armed forces, defense industry, and Sweden spends more than 2% of GDP on defense. Geography also matters. With Sweden in NATO, then of course NATO's position in around the Baltic Sea becomes much stronger, and Sweden plays also an important role in the high north. Then what Sweden gets is, of course, that Sweden is now fully covered by our collective defense clause, Article 5, one for all for one.
And U.S. intelligence agencies have sounded the alarm over the dangers from an increasingly fragile world order. The warning came during testimony by agency heads before a Senate committee and in their annual threat assessment report. DD India's Ira Spitzer reports.
In this new 40-page unclassified report, the U.S. intelligence community highlighted an ambitious but anxious China, a confrontational Russia, regional powers such as Iran, as well as what it called capable non-state actors. According to the report, those forces are challenging long-standing rules of the international system, as well as the U.S. primacy within it. The report also warned of the danger of China using artificial intelligence and other means to potentially try and influence this year's U.S. presidential election. Speaking before the Senate Intelligence Committee, the heads of agencies, including the CIA and FBI, elaborated on some of the report's content. Continuing U.S. military aid to Ukraine was a major discussion point, with CIA Director William Burns saying the U.S. was running out of time to help Ukraine continue defending itself against the Russian invasion, and that walking away from the conflict would sow doubt about U.S. support from Indo-Pacific allies worried about China. Some Republican lawmakers have expressed skepticism about continuing to arm Ukraine. The spy chiefs also discussed the conflict in Gaza at the hearing, which was disrupted several times by anti-war protesters. National Intelligence Director Avril Haines warned that it's likely the conflict will have a generational impact on terrorism. Ira Spitzer in San Francisco, reporting for DD India.
And Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry has issued his resignation as the Caribbean nation's head of government. Henry had held the unelected role since the 2021 assassination of the country's last president. Henry's resignation comes after Nearby Jamaica hosted leaders from the Caribbean community Telecom on Monday and discussed ways to support Haiti and promote political dialogue. Leaders and envoys from Caribbean, North America and Europe attended the emergency summit. Meanwhile, more foreign diplomats were evacuated from the violence-hit country, including European Union staff and all non-essential U.S. personnel. Haiti entered a state of emergency on March 3rd after fighting escalated while former Prime Minister Henry was in Nairobi seeking a deal for the long-delayed UN-backed mission. And United States President Joe Biden has unveiled a $7.3 trillion budget proposal. The budget underscores Biden's efforts to push more funding to combat crime, restrict immigration at the southern border and send aid to Israel and Ukraine. The budget sent to Congress on Monday would cover the 2025 fiscal year beginning in October. President Joe Biden's proposed U.S. government budget would raise tax receipts by $4.951 trillion over 10 years, including more than $2.7 trillion in tax hikes on businesses and nearly $2 trillion on wealthy individuals and estates. The proposed budget also includes new programs to assist low and middle-income Americans with high housing and childcare costs and aims to cut the deficit. Congress is likely to discard the proposals, but the document forms a central campaign message for Biden.
It's how we invest in things that make this country great, from healthcare, education, defense, and so much more, research, development. But here's the deal. The last administration enacted a $2 trillion tax cut. $2 trillion tax cut that benefits the very wealthy in the top 1%, the biggest corporations, and exploded the federal deficit. The last administration added more to the national debt than any presidential term in American history.
And following India's triumph at French Open, India's top men's doubles duo Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty will set their eyes to the All England Open Badminton Championships 2024, scheduled to start in Birmingham on Tuesday. BWF World 1000 event, the All England Open, is arguably the most prestigious tournament on the BWF World Tour calendar. Only Prakash Padukone and Pulela Gopichand are the two Indians to have ever won the All England title in men's singles. The duo will be aiming to become India's first doubles team to clinch the coveted title this year. Satvik Chirag will play against three times world champion Indonesian Muhammad Hassan and Hendra Setiawan on Tuesday. That's all for this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X formerly Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.